Have you ever given up on a journey and turned back? When we think of cruising, we often conjure up images of remote idylls set amongst turquoise seas and golden sandy desert islands, a bit like the atoll where we were anchored in eastern Sulawesi. Just look at the perfect weather. But in the cruising world, things can and do get hairy, as we're about to find out. Farewell, large, beautiful and no-named atoll. There are lots of little islands all around with perfect sandy beaches, not many people here at all. No mosque last night, just a little bit of noise from the beach where the local people were singing. And a pretty good night's sleep, apart from 3 o'clock onwards when the rain started and we got a big squall through, quite a big one really. A lot of rain, a lot of noise, a lot of whistling in the rigging, and yeah, my laundry didn't dry. So we're off now, not quite sure where to, because it's going to very much depend on the weather. We've got about 80 miles or 140 miles depending on where we decide to go. We're just going to wing it, going to set out. We've got lots of potential waypoints written down. We're in about 15 metres of water at the moment. But when we go past the next little island, it just drops off to 5,000 metres. Our route out of the atoll was simple enough. Head east in 15 metres of water, through the channel, and then turn to starboard to head south and into seas of 4,000 metre depths. We knew the weather would be squally, but the conditions quickly worsened. The wind angle was too tight to sail, and we struggled to prevent the sails from backing. Bearing away to sail would have taken us towards the next atoll, where it was too deep to anchor outside and too shallow to enter. Tacking eastwards would have put us on a lee shore with those building waves. Thinking that perhaps we could motor sail for an hour or so to clear the hazards, we continued to slog south.
The two main concerns is there's another atoll over there, and there's the atoll that we were anchored behind, which sticks out. So turning that way at the moment is too risky because we would be being blown onto that. This one we just need to clear. I think once we're clear of the south of that atoll, then we can think about either bearing away off the wind or tacking and heading over there. But we'll make a decision once we've passed this atoll.
My vote's for tacking, but we won't really know, as Jamie says, until we've cleared it all. Well, we've cleared the atolls, and now we've got these great big waves and troughs. There's no avoiding them. There's no way we can go which helps us sail through them other than sideways, and that's really not going to do us any favours at all. Trouble is, we've only got 10 to 12 knots of wind most of the time, even less. So you can't even sail through it very well. It's a pain in the bum. Have we got more than 12 now?
Yeah.
What have we got now?
It's hitting between 15 and 20.
Oh, we're getting 15 to 20, so that's more than we were getting when I was standing up where Jamie is. So that's better. So we are hitting 4 knots now with our engine. We've got the staysail and the mizzen just helping us along. But we can only keep going this way for a certain amount of time. We are going to have to turn southeast at southwest at some stage, which is going to put us straight into the waves. with the waves building and with our poorly engine not giving us the oomph we needed, we decided to tack, turn the engine off and sail westwards. Well, after my last report, the seas continued to build. We're getting 2 to 3 metres, I'd say, easily, and the wind was 30. So just going straight into this with no chance of tacking to our destination, we made the decision that it's probably better to turn round. I'm of the opinion that this isn't just a quick couple of hours. I think this is a little system that's coming through. We were still close enough to go back to where we started this morning. Take a breath, see how today goes, and then try again tomorrow. That's my feeling. Let's hear what the captain has to say.
Oh wow, I now see how high the waves are when I sit here. I've been doing it all from up there. So the forecast that we had, which is now of course, what, 36 hours old, had a maximum of 15 knots, although we did know there was a system coming up. I've just seen 32 knots. We're doing 5.5 knots speed under just staysail and mizens. That shows you how strong the winds are, and as Liz says, these waves, bloody hell, I didn't realise how big they were. So yeah, Liz suggested we turn around and go back, and I think it's a sensible decision. We tried to go across to one of the other atolls to quickly get out the wind, but we don't think we can actually anchor there, so it's probably safest just to head back. So we should be back at the entrance to the atoll in about an hour, and just get back to our anchorage basically and just wait this out, because I think this could last all day. Over.
And we were in agreement. So that was good, isn't it? Yeah, definitely need to get out of this. This is
It's notoriously difficult to get the size of waves, the perspective on camera. I've tried, but it's just not coming out. But believe me, I would say the average size of the wave is probably 2 metres, but some are hitting 3.5 metres, and worse still, they're actually breaking as well. So sometimes they're breaking as they hit Esper, and we get a cockpit full of water. We're just approaching our first waypoint back into the channel. We have to get to the second waypoint to get behind this reef to see if we're going to get any protection. Should be interesting to see what kind of protection it gives. Judging by the size of these waves, not much, but you never know.
Was that the first time that we've ever had to turn back?
Possibly.
I think it's the first time ever that we've decided to turn back. Is it because we're getting old and scared? Or is it, were we being prudent? I think we were being prudent. It got worse and worse. The waves got higher and higher. Saw 41 knots of wind at one stage when we turned round and went back the other way. And even going back to the atoll was exciting. We had the waves breaking over the side into the cockpit. So yeah, a long exhausting afternoon of not getting anywhere, but I think we did the right thing.
Yes, interesting afternoon. What's there to say other than it was definitely the right decision? So we're back at our anchorage. We've actually anchored on the north side. As we came into the atoll, we definitely saw a change in the sea state, but still breaking waves and rollers inside the atoll. So we've just anchored to the north of the island. There's a little bit of reef either side, which is giving us a little bit of protection, but as you can hear, it's still blowing 20-25 knots out there. The only thing I'm thinking is that if it's throwing a shitfest out there right now, and this is what it's like here, then that's okay. We can deal with this. It's just if it gets any worse. But for the moment, anchor's down, and I think we're just gonna,
Time for tea.
Time for a cup of tea. So, just a couple of observations from that failed trip, as Liz says, the only time we've ever turned around, and it was definitely the right thing to do. When we turned around and we had the wind behind us, then good sailing, you know, despite the size of the waves. That kind of sailing, downwind sailing, is always a lot more comfortable. Going into wind though, we just couldn't get the right angle to sail, so we were motoring. And as I said, this reef here, it kind of, as you're looking at it, it sticks out on that side, and then we had another atoll here. So we'd come out, we couldn't turn west to go that way because the atoll was like this, so we had to get that way. But we couldn't go too far east because this atoll here was blocking our way. So there was only a tight space in which to exit. And you know, when you're down to 2 knots and you're motor sailing in building seas, that's when you realise it's just futile. And because we had the luxury of being so close to this anchorage here, it made sense to turn around and come back. But yeah, just interesting to, you know, the forecast that we got was 15 knot tops. And also the other thing I've been keeping an eye on is wave size as well. Nothing more than 1 metre in this whole area, but they were definitely 3 metres. And as Liz says, we hit 41 knots with a consistent 30 knots. So there we go. Unfortunately, we don't have internet connection, so we can't get another weather update. I think if it calms, we'll probably stay another day tomorrow. Might be worth nipping ashore and having a chat with a local fisherman here who have been buzzing backwards and forwards to one of the bigger islands, so might be worth chatting with them to see if we can get a forecast. Well, it's late this morning. It's 9:15. That's because I had a little sleep in, and I say little, I mean probably close to 12 hours to be honest, waking up now and then. Anyway, what we're doing is we are heading back over, almost back on ourselves, to get to a little island close to a big island which has internet connection. Our last forecast we had this whole system coming up over a number of days. Of course that can change, but we just don't want to take the same risk that we did yesterday, so we would like to get internet. So anyway, this anchorage is about 15 miles away, so we're going back on ourselves by, well, it's probably the equivalent of 12 miles when you count the vectors. But it does mean that we can anchor somewhere a bit more protected. That had a little bit of protection, but we were still in the swell, and so that's what we're doing. Yeah, you can see, look, there's more stuff. That's south, by the way. That's where all that stuff came up from yesterday. We've actually got blue sky up there, which is something to cling on to, but I think there's going to be more of this stuff coming up, so we're going to try and nip across. I don't know if we'll make it before that hits, but that is what we are doing right now. This is the island we're aiming for, and we've just had to come up quite a shallow channel at about 12 metres, passing quite a few fishermen in canoes, and we couldn't work out if they were asleep or underwater. But actually what they do is they're in the canoe, but they're bent down with their head in the water fishing for squid. We just passed one guy with a big grin and a big squid. So yeah, we're going to try and tuck in here now. Well, welcome to what is probably going to be our home for the next few days. It's a nice little spot, isn't it? So previously we were at the island of Katini. Sounds like a noise a Jawa would make, doesn't it? Katini! And we've come up to the island of, I think this is Bunyu it's called. So it's got a curved shape, and there is more weather predicted, as I said earlier, and this will hopefully give us some protection. We've checked the forecast, and whoa, it's blowing strong. Most of it is happening down the bottom end, basically where we want to end up at the end of the what will be a 9,500 mile crossing. So the first half of the journey, which is basically what you can see now, wouldn't be so bad, but as we make our way down it looks pretty vicious, and actually even towards the end of the week the wind starts coming up directly on the nose, so it won't be comfortable. So we've still got time, so we're just going to hang out here and wait for that all to blow through. So basically just means just hunkering down and, you know, just trying to avoid what wind will blow up here. That's south, so you can see we've got the island all the way around there. Southwest is there, that's the sort of right there. So if the wind does blow up here and it starts blowing in from the southwest, potentially it might get a little bit choppy in here, but there is a reef out there and hopefully that reef will give us some protection as well. So yeah, it's just a case of get ourselves comfortable, accept that we're going to be here for a few days, and hey, the forecast might change as well over the next couple of days as well. But yeah, here we go. It's quite beautiful here, isn't it?